right back. Destroy is an independent podcast produced by BRB Studios. Every episode is supported by our listeners on Patreon, including Tim O'Donnell and Roy Burns III. More information is available at patreon.com/destroypunkpodcast. The conversations on this show do not end with each episode. At shopdestroy.com, we curate an archive of books, records, prints, and related material connected to our guests and themes. More information is available at shopdestroy.com.
Being punk as a disruptive practice, it forces us to go back to the drawing board again and again and find ways to release elements of our lives from the frameworks that plug them into this corporate profit machine.
People are not able to make radical change without feeling. They are in a community where they care for each other and where they're getting a sense of meaning by what they're doing.
If you are squashed, you just become a robot. You just do what you're told to do.
I've seen repressive cultures, and they're not great. So I value being able to speak freely.
I just can't stand the injustice of this world.
The 9th of April, 1977, marked a battle royale between commercial radio and punk. On one side stood Capital Radio, one of Britain's biggest independent commercial radio stations, and on the other stood The Clash. In the middle stood CBS, one of the biggest record labels in the world. Capital Radio sold itself as the sound of the city, beaming pop music from high above central London. It called itself modern, plugged into culture, in tune with London.
Morning, London's weather. Very wet day ahead. Heavy outbreaks of rain are expected to continue throughout most of the day.
But stations like these did more than just play records. They decided what got played, what got promoted, and what people got to listen to. By 1977, punk was no longer confined to the clubs. The major labels had already worked out there was money to be made. CBS, along with EMI, Polydor, and A&M, all saw that Rebellion could be packaged and resold.
From the posters, it does seem that the record companies and the promoters are cashing in on the violent aspects.
For The Clash, signing to CBS meant an opportunity to broaden their reach, a way to be heard beyond the scene and the people already listening.
We say what we want, right? People will either catch on with it, get hold of it, right? Grasp what we got, right? Or they won't, right?
They believed they were getting access. What they got was a label making decisions for them.
Only a complete and utter fool would have signed these bits of paper. And we just went, yeah.
CBS claimed to have their backs, despite the fact Capital Radio refused to give the band airtime.
You learn a lot about life, getting shafted royally.
Both claimed to know what their audience wanted. Both reduced it to what could be controlled and sold. So Strummer and Jones wrote a response. They named names. They mocked the station's slogan. They went after the idea that a commercial broadcaster could claim to represent the city while turning its back on its youth. CBS refused to put the record out.
Whatever you do, don't sign anything.
A month later, the label released Remote Control instead, but without the band's consent. They were apoplectic. The terms were now clear. You could write the song, build an audience, but once you're inside the system, control is never yours.
I mean, it's only stupidity. We can only blame our own stupidity.
For some bands, that was a contradiction they could live with. For others, it was a warning.
The revolution starts when we stop the whole time sequence.
If you do not control how the work is made and distributed, someone else sets the agenda. For Steve Ignorant and Crass, that was the point. Do not wait for permission. Do not hand control to anyone else.
I will not be told what to do. I will not be preached at. I won't be quoted at. And I just can't stand the injustice of this world.
My name is Richard Smith. I'm an art director and a filmmaker, and I'm your host. Welcome to Destroy.
You have to destroy in order to create.
Dial House is a 16th century farmhouse that sits on the edge of Epping Forest in southwest Essex. By the late 60s, it had become a haven for those seeking alternatives to the mainstream.
It wasn't a squat, it wasn't a commune, although we did live communally. But it totally switched my head round.
Under Penny Rimbaud and G. Vorcher, Dial House operated on an open-door principle. There was no hierarchy and no separation between living, making, and organizing.
For me to walk into a place like Dial House and listen to these people talking and them talking to me as an equal for the first time in my life, you know, as a teenager, was just amazing.
It wasn't just a place to be, it was a way of being. Steve Ignorant was just 12 when he first arrived.
I was still at school and my brother took me over to see this place. And I just kept going back there. And then when I discovered the wonders of truancy, I used to visit even more. And obviously, 1977, I had the possibility of moving in there.
It was worlds away from his East London home, but offered something more.
I lived with my mum and my grandparents. My grandparents ruled the household, and they were the sort of people who, no matter what, the bosses knew best. So there was never any talk about trade unions or anything like that. But they were from that era of no elders and betters. Everything was rigid. You worked at the firm that all of the rest of the family worked at, and you did your 60 years and you got your clock and fucking died.
At Dial House, he was spoken to as an equal. He saw that people could live life differently.
I would never have got that at my house, so it was a no-brainer. I mean, I was just soaking up this stuff, totally naive, totally gullible. I was ignorant of anything to do with politics, but I just found it interesting.
In 1977, Rimbaud and Ignorant formed Crass.
First of all, it was just me and him on drums and vocals, and then the others gradually came along.
It quickly grew into something larger, yet Crass did not operate through leadership. Instead, it believed in collective decision-making.
It was all pretty much a collaboration. There weren't any mentors or anything. I mean, I remember blazing arguments till 5 a.m. or something over one line of a fucking song, for Christ's sake.
It was also questioning what punk was starting to become.
When it started, it was more like do it yourself. There wasn't the tartan bondage trousers and the leather jacket with the studs in it with white paint on them, but at the beginning it was more sort of Oxfam shop, wearing trousers your granddad used to wear.
From Ignorant's perspective, the mainstream had turned punk's ethos into a lifestyle, and Crass refused to follow.
Then, you know, the tartan thing came in, and I went, well, I ain't fucking wearing tartan, I ain't fucking Scottish. It was space shitty shovelers again. And that saddened me that it suddenly became a bit of a fucking uniform.
Because once rebellion could be identified at a glance, it could be packaged.
It's always going to be slightly underground. You might not see it, but it's there. When it becomes mainstream, that means it's fucking bought up, doesn't it?
But Crass did not try to invent a new uniform. They simply pulled back. The aim was not purity, it was independence.
Whatever it was, something was going to blow. And if it wasn't, we were going to make it blow.
It wasn't about who was listening, it was about who controlled what was being said.
I'm not going to be told what I can or can't say.
For Ignorant, it was an invitation, a lifelong refusal to let the system permanently govern you.
Just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. So fuck off.
I do believe that however dark things get, you have to focus on the opportunities. You have to focus on your agency. You have to focus on the opportunities for positive change. History is never over. Things that people think were finished often come back.
CrimethInc is a decentralized network committed to anonymous collective action. It's not a band, it's not an organization, and there are no leaders to follow and no headquarters to raid.
Of the people who participate in our project, everybody is also participating in other activities, in other experiments, in other collectives, in other projects.
Some of what they do is visible, some of it is meant to stay unseen. What connects it is simple: independence from institutions and formal consent.
The way the organizing works, we don't really pull the curtain back too much. We try to maintain a more or less horizontal relationship between the different projects because it's all volunteer work. It's all things that are just happening because people want to do them and find them meaningful.
If Crass outlined a model for what autonomy could look like, CrimethInc pushes it even further. It creates a channel through which ideas can move across cities, across cultures, across different forms of struggle.
The network developed out of people cooperating in different parts of the country and ultimately in different parts of the world. CrimethInc, it offers a venue where people can share their experiences, share what they learn in other movements or in other contexts. That experiment can stretch from Washington, D.C. to Helsinki to Sao Paulo without the need of authority figures or a top-down organization.
It is less a revival of punk than an extension of its underground mindset.
Punk was the space where you can find people living according to a different set of values and prioritizing something else. As a disruptive practice, it forces us to go back to the drawing board again and again and find ways to disruptively release elements of our lives from the frameworks that plug them into this corporate profit machine.
It starts to dawn on us that we're part of something much bigger than we imagined.
CrimethInc originally emerged in the early 90s, not as a scene, but as a new proposal for living and organizing.
Part of the basic experiment that we emerged out of was people trying to live according to different values. You didn't need an umbrella organization, you were just in a local group.
Its critique was simple: more money does not automatically mean more connection.
If we were able to arrange lives in which we could focus our creative energy on things that were meaningful to us, on things that were fulfilling and were valuable in and of themselves rather than because they turned a profit, we have to demonstrate that it's possible for people to do something better together, maximize the extent to which every person can fulfill their potential on their own terms. So create a space in which people can become what they want to become and can do what they want to do without imposed obstacles or imposed forms of scarcity.
The aim was to live with less and attain more mutual support instead of constant competition for survival.
We set out to experiment with different ways of living that weren't dependent on, let's say, a high income stream. Now we are in a time when it's much harder to establish spaces like that today. Everyone has access to resources, but the sort of life skills that Some of us learned in punk and others learned growing up in poverty, for example, and being able to join forces and form collective projects where people can benefit from each other.
Because individual freedom is easy to market as lifestyle and even easier to reduce to consumption.
That's the thing that capitalism has not been able to provide us. That people can succeed, but they can only succeed at others' expense. The challenge is much more significant because grassroots participatory art is the backbone of the new corporate information economy. That's a fundamental co-optation, challenging and attempting to absorb the original punk model.
The system does not only exclude people, it also absorbs them into structures they do not control.
Everybody has a phone, everyone's taking pictures, but the context in which all of these pictures are exchanged is one that's invisibly set. The thing that's missing is not the access to the technology. The thing that's missing is the point of connection that is not mediated by corporate algorithms, by corporate profiteers.
Because we can all publish and we can all broadcast.
Because everyone is the media.
But we do not decide who profits from what we say or owns that once it circulates. That changes what freedom means and who it actually serves.
We have the illusion of freedom. Everyone has access to resources, but through algorithms and platforms controlled by corporations. All of these different activities that we engage in have become monetized or financialized in some way. We have to not only make the choices about what we want in our lives, but determine what the choices are in the first place to be free. That means shaping platforms, not just contributing content.
And at that point, community is no longer just an ideal, it's an imperative, a shared set of values carried by shared responsibility.
Setting up free food distribution programs, free bicycle repair shop for the community. We're most interested in the experiments that people are carrying out with how hundreds of thousands of people can organize together in ways that benefit all of the participants. That's the opposite of selfishness.
The aim is not charity, it is to build durable support. Because if people have what they need, they are harder to silence and harder to divide. It's not about moral purity, it's about where power sits.
Political and financial power has become concentrated in the hands of only a few people. If everyone has access to the resources they need, that we will actually be in a better society.
The point is not about being right or wrong, it's about making space for other ways of thinking, acting, and supporting one another.
It's an authoritarian fantasy to think that we could suddenly abolish the entire world structures that exist right now. The proposal, rather, is that from the grassroots, we should counterpose other forces to the forces that rule right now.
Not one revolution, but thousands of acts of resistance moving hand to hand. What survives is a shared agreement, a method for surviving your daily routine under pressure.
Being able to join forces so that we're not all just individualized, single-serving pockets of freedom bumping into each other. We have to not only make a counter-proposal that power should be distributed horizontally, but determine ways that people can organize together that don't concentrate power in some people's hands over others.
This episode of Destroy was written and produced by BRB Studios. Music was composed by Tokyo Iconic. My name is Richard Smith. Thank you for listening. My name is Richard Smith, and I'm your host. I'm a filmmaker, an art director, and once upon a time I was part of the big 80s. I designed record covers for Depeche Mode, I danced with Bono, discussed art with Mick Jagger, and drank tea with Susie Sue. I also grew up during those turbulent times in England in the late 70s and was driven by the do-it-yourself ethos of punk. I obsessed over bands like Joy Division and New Order and went on to work for the album cover designer Peter Saville. I believe that year, that moment in 1976, when a bunch of foul-mouthed yobs cursed and swore on national television, changed the future of culture forever, and is what brought us to where we are today. So where do we go from here? Will emerging new technologies be the catalyst that tears down the walls of mediocrity, throwing culture and society into chaos and revolution again? We'll have to wait and see. Destroy is a Be Right Back Studios production. Learn more at berightbackstudios.com. And please tune in again for another episode of Destroy, the Influence of Punk podcast, wherever you listen or download. Be right back. The archival audio used in this episode of Destroy is taken from a variety of unknown sources. Every effort has been made to use these clips responsibly, concerning their original creators for the purpose of education, commentary, and tribute. All rights remain with the original rights holders.